Welcome to Two Hearts Dance and Yoga's Heart to Heart series. My name is Leanne Barber, owner and creator of Two Hearts Dance and Yoga, and it's my pleasure to bring you some light of joy today as we continue on our Heart to Heart series adventure. Today we have Cierra Kaler-Jones. Cierra is a social justice educator, writer, scholar, and artist based in the Washington, D.C. area. She is currently a Ph.D. candidate in the Department of Teaching and Learning, Policy and Leadership at the University of Maryland, College Park, studying minority and urban education. Her dissertation explores how Black girls use arts-based practices like movement, music, and hair, just to name a few, as mechanisms for identity development and resistance through the co-creation of healing centered out of school space. She is the founder and director of Unlock Your Story, a coaching and consulting business aimed at helping people tap into their story that they are bravely meant to share with the world. As a former professional dancer in the NBA, a fitness instructor, yoga and meditation instructor, and dance educator, she also uses movement and art as a way to encourage others to take care of their minds, bodies, and souls through the process of sharing stories. Thank you so much for being here, Cierra.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I've been kind of like a fan of yours for a while here. We share, being on the Washington Wizards and dancing, which is awesome. And just the fact that you're kind of in this holistic space, it just kind of connects us in a different way than others, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's really great to have you, and I appreciate you having me on your Unlock Your Story the panel a couple of weeks ago. So that was just wonderful to be a part of. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So it's just my pleasure to have you. Just to get us started a little bit, how has all of this change in the world affected your business?
Mm. Whew. Well, when I started Unlock Your Story a little bit over a year ago now, my goal in mind was to have it be a virtual business because our vision really for Unlock Your Story is to create a global network of storytellers that are committed to narrative change. And so part of that was and has been having virtual events, virtual workshops, virtual classes. And so when COVID hit, and after a couple of weeks when organizations, companies, businesses, and just groups were coming together and trying to think about how they could have creative programming for their staff or for the young people that they work with. They ended up coming to Unlock Your Story because this is work that we were already doing. So it actually ended up booming the business quite a bit at the beginning of COVID. And then as with the racial uprisings over the summer and this continued reckoning around racial injustice, a lot of people then were coming back to Unlock Your Story too, because a lot of the work that we do is on storytelling for social justice. So how to get people to unpack some of the historical context of what the current moment is showing us is just a repeat. History is repeating itself. And so how do we look both at the history, but then dig deeply into our own stories, our own experiences, and have real actual dialogue that turns into action. So it ended up being a very interesting way for Unlock Your Story to come to the forefront of a lot of these conversations and to be able to just connect with schools and universities and businesses and organizations all across the country that are devoted to and committed to doing social justice work.
That's wonderful. And you have such a wonderful platform to kind of express all of these very relevant and very kind of right on time type of topics. I just feel like you said, history does repeat itself, and sometimes it's unfortunate, but
Mhm.
being able to kind of address things in a proper way by using other stories has been such a wonderful thing to see your business kind of grow into as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So kind of shifting gears a little bit here. You have dedicated much of your life to dancing. How did you discover your love for dance as a young dancer?
Yes. So when I was young, I had way too much energy And I would just jump up and down for hours because I had all of this energy in my physical body and just in my soul that I was trying to expel. And so my mom one day was just like, all right, see, we got to do something with you. We need to get you into dance class. Cause I was always moving, I was always wiggling, and I was always like inviting people in my family to come into the living room or come into the kitchen. And I would put on these performances just as, as little kids, we're just like hamming it up. And so my mom ultimately put me into dance class to give me that platform and to give me that ability to really come into my body and really find a place where I could expel some of that energy. I also, when I was born with hip dysplasia. And so that's basically where the hip bone does not fully form into the socket. And I had to wear a brace for the first year of my life. And so dance also too was a way for me to build up that strength and build up that ability to really stand strongly and to be able to really come into my body and understand how I could use my body as a powerful tool for expression and storytelling.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that journey with us. It's really nice to hear kind of where your love for dance started. And as you continue to grow as a dancer, we both dance for the NBA Washington Wizards on the court. Yeah, Wizards.
Yes.
For many of my dancers who want to become NBA dancers, can you tell us about your journey and how you kind of got to that moment?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I was on the Rutgers University dance team. So we danced at all of the home football and basketball games. And so that really gave me a great foundation to dance with the team because I came from competition, I came from doing solos, and making that shift to think about, okay, how can I use my body to match other people so that we can look cohesive, but also how to perform for a much larger crowd than I was performing for when I was competing in high school. And so after I graduated from college, actually the day that I graduated from college, I had my stuff packed in packed in my car to leave for DC that night because I had gotten a really incredible opportunity to move down here and started my master's program at the George Washington University. And I was looking at different teams in the area, and I was immediately drawn to the Wizards organization. And so I actually talked myself out of auditioning for about a year because I was nervous. I didn't feel equipped. I lacked the sense of confidence really that I needed to be able to perform to the best of my ability. And we tell ourselves all of these negative stories that come in, and I was just feeding myself all of this lack, a sense of lack or a sense of deficit. So what I did during that year that I talked myself out of auditioning was I studied the team. I watched everything that they posted. I watched all of the videos of their dances. I went to games just to see and get a feel for the style. I took a lot of dance classes at the Dance Institute of Washington just to get to a place where I felt comfortable. And then so I auditioned and was really fortunate that I was able to make it during my first audition. But I think everything happens for a reason. I ended up being with an incredible rookie class, and we're still super close to this day. We call ourselves the Sizzling Seven because there are seven of us. And so I think, just being in a place where you feel confident in yourself, confidence is really key with the team because when you get out onto the court, that's part of the performance. That's part of the thing that draws people into wanting to watch you. So I definitely would suggest research the team, take a lot of dance classes, and then do some of that internal work too, because that internal work will then shine when you go to the audition.
Absolutely. I love everything you said about, and it's actually like shocking for me to hear that you felt like you were lacking or didn't have the confidence because you have so much confidence now and you just like exude that light.
Oh, thank
It's,
you.
yeah, so it's nice to hear. It's kind of refreshing to hear that like even someone like you might have had that moment where you didn't feel like you were enough or you didn't feel like you were going to make it onto the team because I think a lot of girls kind of have that self-doubt. So
Mm-hmm.
to know that like it takes time to kind of build yourself up to like kind of reflect in, kind of try to find that light within, but then to also take a step back and research exactly what you're about to get into. I think that's I think that's so important too, and it's such great advice because you want to be able to gel well with the team. You want to
Mhm.
what's going to be expected of you. So those moments where you might have taken a step back, it was actually a step forward.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I have really enjoyed taking yoga with you during this time. It seems like it's just such a passion of yours. What brought you to your mat, and what brought you to becoming a yoga teacher in the first place?
Mm. So I remember in high school, we would do these yoga videos as part of our dance program. And I remember I just struggled so much with the actual practice of yoga, of looking internally, of being still and being quiet. Cause again, like that part of me that's that childhood self that's like, I need to do everything all of the time and my brain is always working. And so I really struggled with it in high school. Refound it again in college. I started taking a class that was offered through the recreation center once a week. And I was like, wow, it felt different because I was at a different place in my life. And then as a teacher, as a dance teacher, I saw my kiddos come to class and stress about school, stress about things that were going on in their life. And so there, there were a few times where I was like, all right, let's reset, and why don't we just lay down on the floor and I want you to just breathe. And so as they did that, I would just talk to them and I would tell them, what parts of their body to just relax and release into the floor. And then after I did that a couple of times, they're like, Miss Sierra, can you do the yoga voice? Every class, they were like, can you do the yoga voice? And at that time I was like, I don't even know what a yoga voice is. And so it was because of the kiddos that I ultimately ended up wanting to become a yoga instructor. At the beginning of every year, I write a list of things that I want to accomplish that year. It's 1 point for every year that I have been on this earth. And so one of those was to do yoga teacher certification. And that ended up being on the list for about 3 or 4 years, again, before I actually mustered up the confidence to be able to do it. So that's what brought me to yoga. And it's changed and transformed my life. The way that I view myself, the way that I view the world, I just feel like a completely different person, and having a better understanding of a deeper sense of self, but also how I can use that self to create the impact and the change that I want to see.
Absolutely. And I remember seeing on social media or something when you were going through your yoga teacher training, and kind of how you were like self-reflecting and didn't really think it was going to be what it was. And I remember those moments myself, like
Hmm.
up for yoga teacher training, but you don't realize that you're signing up for like a whole self
Yes.
reflection, self-examination, because it's like
Yes.
you end up like questioning all of these things about yourself. You end up finding yourself in the process. And
Hmm.
I just remember like seeing you go through that. I'm like, oh, she's about to learn in a way.
Yes. And I remember you commented too, and then you're like, we need to talk.
uh,
So I'm so glad that you did.
yeah, it's nuts. Like I tell people that all the time when I'm like, you're signing up for a yoga teacher training, yes, but you're actually signing up for like a life transformation.
Yes, absolutely.
Thing. So you do all of these things, and you are currently a PhD candidate. How do you balance being a entrepreneur, a dance teacher, and continuing your studies at the same time?
Oof, that's a good question. And I think I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that myself, because it's not glamorous. And I know that you know, because you also balance and juggle multiple things. And, that's what life is. I think about Tiffany Dufu's book, Drop the Ball. In some areas, you drop the ball and you have to know in what areas or what balls are rubber and which are glass. And it's like, I feel constantly like the juggle emoji. And so one of the few of the practical tips that I do is just at the beginning of every day, I have a list of big, medium, and small. Like these, I'm going to get done one big thing today, two medium things, and three small things. And if I don't get to all three of the small things, it's not the end of the world. And I realized especially how important it is when balancing multiple aspects of life and of interests and of passions, how important it is to extend a level of grace to ourselves, because it's a lot of work and resting is a key and integral part of that. I like to preach the power of rest. Shout out to the NAP ministry and the great work that they do. But I know that sometimes it's actually hard for me to put that in practice. So I'm trying to be a lot more strategic about just writing down, like, what are my heart priorities? What lies really close to me? And in order to do those things, what does it mean? I have to say no to a lot of things too. So I do the big, medium, and small list, but I write down everything. I write down all of my to-do. I like coordinate it to make sure that things that need to get done, and then also extend myself the love and the grace and the kindness that I need in order to continue to fuel me to do the work. And I've realized too, with the multiple things that are being juggled in my life, so whether it be in the PhD or in being an entrepreneur, being a creative person and an artist, all of it really at the heart of it is storytelling. So I find ways to pull in aspects of other work into my current work. So a lot of being an educator is learning the history, is teaching the history, and then that goes into the unlock your story work. So I'm like, how do I take all of the things and then build on one another so that I can be as efficient as possible with my time and with my energy?
Awesome. Wonderful tips. I hope everyone's taking notes because those are such great tips. And it's such a gem to kind of figure out what works for you and maybe try to apply it. So very good. That kind of segues us into talking about unlock your story. Where did this idea come from?
Ooh. So when I started my master's program at the George Washington University, I was also a hall director. So I was a hall director for first year college students, and that was actually right at the height of the 2016 election. And I realized that a lot of students were coming to my office and wanting to have conversations about social justice issues, but they didn't necessarily feel equipped or empowered to have the conversations. They didn't feel like they had the tools to engage in difficult dialogue. So I started hosting monthly sessions around storytelling for social justice. So it was kind of like a sprinkle. It started to come up just a little bit at that time. And so I started a program called Speak Your Truth, which was the monthly series where we had 2 events every month, from photo exhibits where I ran around campus with some other students and took pictures of folks that wanted to be a part of the photo project, and they answered the prompt. Society says I am blank, I say I am blank, and we like put it up in the library. We had dinner and dialogues. We had all of these events, and it was just really powerful work to be a part of that learning process. And so after I graduated, I kind of put that on hold. That was my master's thesis, was this storytelling for social justice work. And then revisited it actually a little bit over a year ago. So as a 305 fitness instructor, every class, I always start out with a quote of the day. So I'd give a quote and then I would give a story. And Tilly, who is one of my friends who would come to class one day, was like, hey, do you think that you would put together a storytelling workshop for Ladies Wine and Design DC? Because she was one of the co-organizers. And I was like, a storytelling workshop? Sure. So I went and I gave the workshop, and I was just like, wow, just putting it together and then being able to facilitate it. I was like, I feel like I just, when you feel in your body that something is right, like all of the stars are aligning, everything is coming together. And that workshop was called Unlocking Your Creative Story. And so a couple of months later, I emailed Tilly and I was like, is it okay if I use that name? Because I think I want to turn this into a business. And so from there, Unlock Your Story was born, and involved a lot of reaching out to what my friend Marcus, another 305 instructor, calls board of directors. So reaching out to people who are close to me that support me and bouncing off ideas about them. But really, it was just me thinking about, okay, how do I take all of these things that I love to do and put it into one organization and build a community as part of that work?
Wow, what an inspiring story. Like how, just one tiny little thing became this multi-level, multifaceted thing that you've put together. And I absolutely love it. It gives people kind of the platform to tell their story, to engage others, to, like you said, you created this community. And it's really just a beautiful thing that you've done. And I love hearing like where it began, because it's like one tiny little thing can just, turn into something so big and so awesome. So congrats to you. I love
Thank you.
the things that you're doing. You should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you so much.
So Cierra, what is in the future for you and your brand?
Whew. Well, a few things are currently in the works. I am almost finished my dissertation, so I'm hoping that this May I will be graduating with my PhD. And so that will, hopefully continue to open up doors to do the work that I was doing specifically with my dissertation and creating spaces for Black girls to come together and talk about resistance and organizing and use art as a way to express themselves and express the ways that they want to change the world. So that's one thing that has been on the upcoming calendar for myself, but also with Unlock Your Story 2021. We want it to be even bigger. So in 2020, I was able to hire our first staff person, which is Elisa, and she's incredible. She's our communications director. So for 2021, we are dreaming into existence more workshops, so more storytelling for social justice series. There's another workshop that we lead called creating a strategic plan for your creative project or business. So how do we tell the story of our work and the story of our brand and create an actual plan for it to see it through, especially for people, in COVID that have found that they are taking their passion projects and putting those out into the world, which has been really exciting to support people doing that work. We're going to hopefully come out with merchandise. And I just want to write a lot more and be more public facing with the writing portion of Unlock Your Story, creating more opportunities for partners. So we love to partner with different organizations to host workshops. We also do coaching. So we have a couple of one-on-one coaching partners who are incredible. And then also in 2021, we are rolling out some group coaching and some brand new workshops. So stay tuned, all of those things to come. I'm a big dreamy person. And so in the next couple of weeks, when I have a little bit of downtime, I'm going to spend a lot of it dreaming and ideating to move forward some of these things that are surfacing in my brain and putting it on paper and then putting it into action.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're making those dreams come to action, and super proud of you, super excited to see what else comes from you. Just making sure people stay tuned. Where can people learn more about you, learn more about Unlock Your Story?
Yes. So for my personal pages on Instagram and Twitter, I am at _ Cierra Jade, Jade _ and then also my personal website is CierraKaler-Jones.com with no hyphen in my last name. I'm actually unveiling a new website soon, so stay tuned for that. And then for Unlock Your Story on Instagram, we are at Unlock Your Story. On Facebook, we're just Unlock Your Story. And then our website is www.unlockyourstoryco.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so, so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. I'm so excited to share this with my community and hopes that it inspires someone out there to keep going and to just dream big, because that's exactly what you're doing. So thank you so much for all of your sharing today. On behalf of Two Hearts Dance and Yoga, thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we look forward to seeing all the things that come of you in the next year, 5 years, whatever it is.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.